Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode where I want to start with a question. Do you feel overwhelmed with the hostility that is out there in the news, that is pervasive on every social media outlet, every newscast that you watch, even if you try to avoid it? Is it negatively impacting you? You nodded your head. Let me just tell you, you are not alone. So many of the women in my course right now, in groups of mine, are just saying they feel overwhelmed with the negativity and being torn between how do I stay actively engaged and not allow what's going on to totally bring me down and completely bum me out. So I have some ideas for you if this is impacting you, because it's impacting me as well. Now, let's start with the way that you consume your information, your news. My 2 cents on that is less is more. So if you're watching the 24-hour news cycle, I'm going to say, please stop right now. It is 100% unnecessary. You can stay informed. I read my news so then I have a choice to stop when I've read enough. It's not about being uninformed or sort of bypassing the situation that you may be in your country, in your culture, in this country, in this culture. It's about protecting yourself. This type of self-care is really about self-love, self-consideration. So you can be dutiful, you can be a good citizen, and not watch news all the time. Be selective of what news sources you're actually subjecting yourself to. I mean, think about how much the news cycle has changed in the past 20 years. Before CNN, before Ted Turner, before all of the 24-hour news cycle, those of you who are young don't realize there was a time when you could only watch the news like once or twice a day, right? 6 and 11 on 3 stations. So they were not manufacturing news to fill the space, which I feel like is what's happening now. Or they're just beating the depressing dead horse to the point where you want to just jump off a bridge, So that's the first thing, is less is more when it comes to news. The next thing is actually upping your self-care, being really mindful of what your body needs. Are you dialing into how you feel? Are you listening to the wisdom of your body when you need a break, or even just when you have to pee, or when you're thirsty, or when you're hungry? Or are you so mired in what's going on in the world, and maybe in work or whatever it is that you're throwing yourself into, that you're ignoring the signals from your body to rest? Sleep is such an important part of being healthy, of being well, mind, body, and spirit. That's not just from me. You can, Dr. Frank Lipman and a million other doctors talk about the importance of sleep. But I wonder how many of you who are listening to this or watching this get less than 7 hours of sleep a night. Because really you need at least 7 or 8. Some people require more. People who claim, and I'm a recovering one of those people who claims, I only need 5 hours of sleep a night. No, that's actually not true. And if you want your body to be restoring itself at the level that it's possible for it to, you have to sleep in order for that to happen. Again, resting, being mindful. Do you have a meditation practice? Has that fallen by the wayside? Start it up again, slowly but surely. Even if you're only doing 5 minutes in the morning a day, it actually matters. It will do something for your internal experience, because that's really what we're talking about. What meditation does, or at least what it does in my life, is it buys me a little bit of response time. So instead of reacting, I have about 2 seconds to make a conscious choice, a mindful choice. And it doesn't mean I'll never be angry, or that you should never be angry. But if you're angry and you want to express that, let it be a choice and not an explosion, not just verbally punching someone in the face that you're later going to regret, right? So again, all of this goes into self-care. And also, are you moving your body? Are you stretching? Are you walking? Are you actually working out? I find that with these hostile times, for me, working out is absolutely 100% non-negotiable. If I am not working out, wow, I'm very much not my best self. That's me personally. But working out for decades for me has been a very important touchstone for my mental and physical health. So these are all things I'm just asking you to think about. You also want to avoid negative people, right? There's a whole study. I did a whole video, an episode on hanging out with negative people, chronic complainers, how it actually, there is a scientific study that talks about the fact that it does something to your brain. It's as dangerous for you, even if you're not the complainer, as secondhand smoke. So yeah, you know the people who just get off on the bad news. They just can't wait to tell you. I have a friend who's like, oh my God, I have the worst story to tell you. Who prefaces that? I'm like, do me a favor. Don't tell me that story. I heard the most horrendous thing. Okay, well, thanks, but I don't need any more horrendous in my life. So you know who those people are. And I say, honestly, limit your time. Don't just become a receptacle for someone else's compulsive negativity, because it does something to you, your brain, but also your energy and your spirit. Protect yourself. The next thing I want to talk about is doing energy work. One of my closest friends is an energy medicine expert. Lara Riggio is her name. I'll give you guys the link in the show notes or in the blog notes, where you can just learn a very simple zip up that she teaches you how to do from your pubic bone up the center meridian to your mouth 3 times in the morning. You're zipping up your energy. And before I knew Lara, before I did any energy work, I didn't even believe in it. I thought it was just not even real. I was like, what? Even though I actually was a Reiki master and I understood that kind of energy, but I didn't understand the whole energy of the body and how we really do have an aura that protects us. And there are ways that we can strengthen that, especially in these hostile times. The energy that you surround yourself with and taking care of your energy is really, really important. The next thought that I have about self-care in these hostile times is paying it forward, right? Do something nice for someone else. There is nothing that will lift your spirits faster than being kind to another person. Help adding value to another person's life actually releases endorphins for you. So it's a win-win. That's not the only reason to do it, but that sure is a good reason to do it. So instead of being judgy and bitchy and short-tempered and blaming the cashier instead of the store or whatever it is that you may be doing, stop displacing your aggression on other people and think about who could use some kindness in their life. What is it that you can do? Whether you have a neighbor who needs help sweeping up her leaves, whether you have an old person in your family or someone in your life that you could call and say, how are you? And then let them tell you stories from 1928 for 25 minutes. That wouldn't kill you, right? You might actually learn something. You might actually like it. But you cannot imagine what that would do for someone else who definitely feels like so many old folks that I talk to feel like the world has forgotten them. Nobody cares about their stories. So respect your elders. Be kind. Do something good in the world. How we can combat this hostility and so much of the wrong things that are going on in the world is to even the playing field by doing something good that you know will add value to someone else's life. And the next thing I want to talk about is you really dialing into how you feel. What do you want? These hostile times are so confronting for so many of us, but so much of the confronting that's going on is important and it's necessary, and we're changing and growing as a society. So if you find yourself fully numbing out, completely being like, I want nothing to do with this, that isn't good for you either. So part of it is tapping into your own courage to be a part of the solution while you protect yourself and make sure that you have the things that you need, that you have comfort in your life, that you are soothing yourself in a way that isn't super detrimental. Because I find that a lot of times when we need or want soothing, we're eating too much, we're drinking too much, we're having meaningless sex, whatever we're doing that doesn't actually make us feel better. It makes us feel better temporarily, but really not in the long run. So part of it is thinking about how can you be a part of the solution without doing something that is detrimental to you, right? And the last thing that I want to talk about is, is for you to become a silver lining detective. Like there's something about being positive that is important. And it is very pedestrian for you to be super negative all the time. Like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say what sucks in the world, in your life, right? That's like lazy. Don't be lazy. Look for the silver lining in the experiences in your life. And that is to say, look for the lessons. Look for what there is for you to learn about yourself in those situations. It's so incredibly important that you don't just look at the things that happen in your life from the point of view of like, well, that just sucked. That's it. I mean, you can, but then there's nowhere to go from that point of view. So I really want you to try hard to look for the lessons. So much of the time, if we're willing to get our hands dirty, if we're willing to really look, you can find really valuable data points for yourself about whatever the situations are. And I'm not really talking about the global situations or political situations right now. I'm talking about the situations in your life, right? The situations that you can either say, well, that whole relationship was horrible. I got totally screwed. He cheated on me, she cheated on me, or whatever it is. And yet that is having you have no responsibility in anything that happened in that relationship, which of course is not real. You can only be 50%. So when I say look for the silver lining, that may feel like spiritual bypassing. How about we just call it look for the wisdom, look for those gems in those painful experiences. A, so you don't have to repeat them, but B, so that you can learn about yourself. This is how we evolve. It's painful. It's why most people don't do it and don't want to do it. But I know if you are watching this that you do. So don't worry. I made a little cheat sheet for you of all these points. So you can just download that, whether you're listening to this on the podcast or whether you're watching it on YouTube or on my blog. If you liked this episode today about self-care in hostile times, please share it on your social media outlets, whatever they may be. I hope that you have an amazing week taking care of you. That is it for today's episode, and I will see you guys next week.